Nobody's touching my family.
It took him 4 months to finally get that screw. Fuck him.
1, 2, 3.
The story begins with Jacob Harlon, a prisoner, writing to his son, Joshua, about how many years have passed since he last sent him a letter. Jacob apologizes for not being a better dad, signifying that it'll be his final letter to him, so he makes a request that Joshua should move on and protect his mom no matter what.
Is to properly say goodbye to you.
Sometime later, the prison guards rush into the cell after being alerted that one of the inmates has been unalived. The head guard asks Lopez, the inmate's roommate, what happened.
What happened, Lopez?
But Lopez calls the case a suicide.
Suicide my ass.
After that, the head guard walks to Jacob's cell and informs him it's his day out of prison. He takes Jacob, and he gets cleared. But before bidding him farewell, the head guard passes a piece of advice to Jacob from the Beast, another teammate. Jacob follows his instructions and takes a train to a given destination. There, he meets Shotgun and Howie and is told about a welcome party organized for him.
Got a big night planned for you, bro.
Somewhere else, a cop named Ketcher meets with a fellow cop who needs a warrant to question Lenny, a sex offender. Ketcher goes in regardless and knocks on Lenny's door.
Kutcher, come to the door, Lenny.
But he gets welcomed with multiple bullets to the stomach. Immediately, Ketcher retaliates by storming in and getting rid of Lenny. Later that night, Shotgun takes Jacob to a house party, and he reunites with Chop, one of his fellow inmates from prison. Jacob is shown a lot of hot baddies, and is asked to calm his nerves with one of them, but he chooses to look for the bathroom. Then Janie comes up and takes him to a private one, expecting him to show her some of that prison sausage, but he curves her because maybe he's picked up too much soap in prison. However, Jacob asks for her name, and suggests they go out for a drink sometime later. She accepts, and he says he'll get her number from Shotgun.
What's your name?
Janie.
Shortly after, Jacob leaves the bedroom, and as he chats with Shotgun, he notices gunmen outside the house, so he tells everyone to duck. Immediately, bullets ricochet into the room, and unfortunately, Janie gets hit in the process. Jacob is quickly rushed out of the vicinity and escapes with Howie in a vehicle. After learning that the vehicle has all its licenses up to date, Jacob drops Howie off, but before that, he tells Howie to answer only to him after learning he's not inked. He orders Howie to get him 2 different cell phones and meet with him at the motel the following day. With that, he drives around the town and sees a familiar spot that brings back memories. Apparently, 10 years ago, Jacob was a Pasadena financier, a well-respected family man with a loving wife, Kate, and a young son, Joshua. One time after work, he got home to meet his family and prepared to go out with his best friend, Tom, and his wife, Jennifer. While he spoke to Kate, he saw that she had achieved a milestone in one of her designs, and to sell out like crazy, she planned to meet with Jennifer for help.
That's why I have to ask Jennifer for her help.
That night, they ate out with their friends, and after a celebratory evening, Jacob made the fateful decision to drive while intoxicated, which led to a devastating accident that unalived Tom.
Baby, no! Oh my God.
Currently, he drives past the place and zooms off into the night. The following day, Ketcher probes Tony for missing work and advises him to rise above the challenges he's facing, or he'll find himself back inside. Later, Ketcher joins his fellow cops as they try to crack down on the Beast's operation. He gained prior information from their CI about the Beast's henchmen, and one of them happens to be Jacob.
He's ordered this guy, Jacob Harlon.
The cops are aware of a gun shipment that'll be happening in the next 48 hours. They've been trying to put a finger on the inmate who has the Beast title, known for controlling ammunition in California for 15 years. Rather than letting the ATF in on their case, Ketcher decides they'll handle it themselves.
You alert ATF?
And let them take our collar? Hell no.
While conversing, he coughs, but brushes it off, and informs them that he'll be meeting with Jacob later that day. After the meeting ends, he checks his chest wound caused by the bullet Lopez fired in the bathroom, and instantly remembers putting the criminal down. In the past, Jacob was taken into custody for DUI manslaughter, and was told by his lawyer, Steve,
DUI manslaughter cases.
that his prosecutor would be pressing charges, and he'd catch jail time. The lawyer told him not to go to trial, since it'd be hard to win, due to the glaring evidence.
I gotta be honest, man, the evidence is pretty overwhelming.
And if he lost, he'd spend the maximum time compared to striking a deal with the prosecutor and having to do 16 months. He accepted the offer and then went to speak to his wife after the call.
Hi.
During their conversation, his wife informed him she planned to bail him out with the loan she got by using the house as collateral, but he told her he took Steve's offer, since it was better than going on trial, only to lose and spend 7 years in jail. She tried to convince him to take the trial, but he accepted his fate and reminded her that he won't be suffering as much as Jennifer and Tina are. Currently, Jacob meets with Howie, who hands him the cell phones he programmed his numbers into, but Jacob tells him to erase the data in one of the phones. They enter the vehicle and drive to East LA.
East LA, Lola's Flowers and Beverly.
And on the way, Jacob learns that Janie survived the gunfire, and she won't snitch on them. They get to their destination, and Jacob meets with Herman Gomez, one of his inmates in prison. While they speak privately, Jacob learns that Herman asked the Beast to handle the shipment. Herman also gives him a rough idea of where it'll be, but tells him that the exact coordinates will drop an hour before midnight.
We're gonna get exact coordinates 1 hour before.
After the meeting, Jacob goes to a restaurant with Howie and asks him how he came across the tons of guns. Howie explains to him that it was when they were at war in Afghanistan. He said that on one particular night, while he was clearing a back room of a Taliban house he was assigned to,
One night my unit hit a Taliban house.
he found a trap door which had over 1,000 AKs and Glocks. So he sealed the container and traded 100 of the weapons and had it shipped back to the US. After hearing this, Shotgun shows up shortly and speaks to Jacob outside. There, he tells Jacob his findings about the previous night's shootout, labeling it as a driveway incident, which he believes was caused by some members of the house party who butted heads with a different crew. Jacob doesn't buy his story and reminds Shotgun that ex-convicts like them shouldn't be seen together in broad daylight. After the meeting, Jacob threatens Howie not to pull stunts, like trying to organize a meetup between him and Shotgun like he did earlier.
Everything you do in this game has a consequence.
In the past, before Jacob was taken to prison, Steve advised him to stand up for himself while in there,
So you gotta stand up for yourself.
and to also try his best not to draw attention. One night in the general cell room, he saw a fellow inmate, who may or may not be named DD, get used as a stress relief and creamed against his will. And this solidified Jacob's ideology to fight or be walked on. So the next day, while the prisoners went for their morning exercise, Jacob mistakenly walked the path of a dark-skinned inmate who threatened to because he liked them soft. Immediately, Jacob pounced on the unlucky dude to pass the message that he isn't a cheap knockoff. The whites noticed his guts and watched as the guards forcefully separated him from his victim. Currently, Ketcher takes photos of Jacob's tattoos and interrogates him regarding the rumors he heard of Jacob being around where a gunshot happened the night before. Jacob immediately denies being there and tries to establish an alibi, but Ketcher doesn't buy it. Instead, he hands Jacob a cell phone and says he'll check in on him from time to time. Back in the past, after Jacob's arse-phobic act in the prison yard, the next day, Shotgun took him to meet with Aryan, who told him to associate only with his race. When he saw that Jacob could be a little useful to him, he told Jacob to work for him, so in exchange he'd back him up, maybe with baby oil.
What are you going to do when you're out here slumming it with the rest of us? Because the safety of these numbers comes with a price.
Jacob later spoke to Kate, and after she told him about their son's first letter written to him, he found out that Jennifer is suing them for Tom's death. Knowing that they don't have the money to cover it, Jacob advised Kate to sell the house and pleaded with her not to give up on her dream. Presently, he sees her outside her new home, and they take their conversation to a restaurant. Rather than catching up on old stuff, she questions him for sending Joshua a letter which hinted towards suicide, but he hands her an envelope, which, if notarized, will have her in riches. Kate rejects the money, believing it isn't clean, but Jacob assures her it is, and asks her to give it to Joshua.
Give it to Josh, then whatever you want.
You give it to Josh.
She tells him to do that himself, and reminds him that their son needs a father, but Jacob says they deserve someone better,
You deserve better.
and he isn't fit to play that role. Before leaving, he says he'll vanish from their lives after she checks in the money. Still in the past, Jacob was secretly given a balloon, which he was to transport into the yard the next day. He learned from Shotgun how he was to do it, so he stuck it up his dump truck and got it out the following day for Aryan. After Aryan successfully got the package, he told Jacob to continue, and that was how Jacob earned the title, Money.
Keep putting in that work, money man.
Presently, he and Shotgun go to a clubhouse to meet with the Beast's crew, who will help in moving the ammunition. Jacob instructs them to use trucks and minimize the vehicles for the operation.
Let's keep vehicles to a minimum, just the moving truck and a scout.
After the meeting, he orders Howie to join Chopper while he quietly tails Shotgun. Not too far off, he sees Shotgun interacting with some cops and concludes that he's a rat. The rat indeed is asked to wear a wire, but he refuses, so Catcher threatens to clap what's left of his mother, Monica, who is in jail for drug trafficking. Shotgun opts for another option, which is to have his cell phone tracked, and Catcher agrees on the condition that it must always be active. In the meantime, Jacob goes back to the motel, and as he goes through his documents, which include family photos, he recalls his time in jail when he was tasked with getting rid of a snitch.
How do they know he's really snitching?
Although inexperienced, he did the job, marking the first time he unalived someone. Currently, Kate shows up at his motel the next morning and informs him that she has notarized his assets. Out of the corner of his eye, he spots Joshua, who walks up to him to plead with him to start his life again. The grown teen wants Jacob back, but the ex-convict painfully turns Joshua's offer down.
It's over. Let us help you get back on your feet.
And after they leave, Jacob makes up his mind to leave the motel room and pop the snitch. To have a clean getaway, he swaps his cell phone for a clean one, and then escapes through the bathroom window. He then takes a taxi to a restaurant where Howie is, and requests a new vehicle, which he plans to use to pick up Shotgun. He asks Howie how he met Shotgun, and Howie says it was Janie who introduced them to each other. Howie then explains that he doesn't want to be a part of a gang, and this takes Jacob down memory lane. He remembers when he found himself in a gang war, and had to unalive his foes in the prison yard. In the ethnic war, he saved one of his comrades from biting the dust, but it cost him a lot, as everything was caught on camera. He was later sentenced to 9 more years in prison for unaliving a fellow inmate, and also for associating with a gang.
Mr. Harlon, with this court finding you guilty of assault by a prisoner with a deadly weapon, I'm sentencing you to the middle term of 4 years.
Without any form of remorse, he told Kate to forget about his existence.
Forget I exist.
And when he was asked why he did those things, he called it a gang code. He was then taken to a different cell, where he shared a room with Ripper. Ripper recognized him, and Jacob immediately asked for the prisoner in charge of their zone, so Ripper told him it's Redwood. During their daily workout session, Ripper introduced Jacob to Redwood.
Redwood, this is money.
And the latter commended him for his selfless act in his former prison yard. He informs Jacob that the Beast also heard about his act. Intrigued, Jacob asked about the Beast's whereabouts, and Redwood told him, and after that, they continued their workout session. Presently, while the cops lie in wait, monitoring their tracker, Catcher briefs Manny about how Jacob slammed the door shut on his family's faces. He finds it hard to believe that someone like Jacob, who has a life most convicts wish for, would reject the idea of starting afresh. Manny, on the other hand, sees it as a common phenomenon that happens to any convict who joins a gang. He informs Catcher that the ATF is starting to get a whiff of the case, and Catcher wonders if they should involve them. Seeing how Catcher doesn't want to sit in the office, Manny encourages him and reminds him that he saved a girl from Lopez. Sometime while in prison, Jacob received a divorce letter from Kate and was happy she had moved on.
It's good. I wanted to move on.
As time progressed, he got into fights with other inmates, and his notoriety grew. One time, a corrupt guard named Roberts took him to meet the Beast, and Jacob finally got to speak to him in person. The convict king told Jacob how the guards and the prison system belittled them, and they needed to prove otherwise. He asked Jacob to lend him a hand, and when Jacob agreed, he told Jacob to keep his head down, avoid new ink, and whatever nightmare was hiding under another man's blanket. Then he gave him a private cell, some books, lotion, and welcomed him into the family.
Welcome to the family, brother.
In the present, after Jacob meets with Howie, he goes to a minimart and buys some knives and clothes for his next operation. Since he has changed his car, he drives into Shotgun's neighborhood without raising any suspicion. Back in prison, after Jacob had served 85% of his prison time without causing any trouble, he was told he'd be granted bail in a month. So during the waiting period, he got a call from the Beast, who informed him of the gun shipment that Shotgun relayed to him. He asked Jacob to partner up with Shotgun once he gets out, but Jacob reminded him that he would be constantly watched by the police. Immediately, the Beast started rambling on about how that was none of his business, and that Jacob signed a lifetime deal, the kind that ends only when he's 6 feet under. He then threatened Jacob's family, and Jacob promised to do as he was told. And after the call, he realized he was fucked.
Think of your family in this decision.
Excuse me.
Presently, Shotgun hears a knock on his door, and after confirming it's Jacob, he opens it, only to be attacked and stabbed. When Jacob tries to question him, Shotgun tells him to finish the job, so Jacob makes basket holes out of his tummy. After waiting for a while with no update from Shotgun, Catcher heads to his house, but by then, Jacob has already swapped their cell phones and vanished. As soon as Catcher sees Shotgun's corpse, he alerts the other cops to check Jacob's motel, but they find it empty. One of Jacob's phones is there, and Catcher confiscates the phone found on Shotgun, where he discovers the coordinates for their meetup. Later that evening, Jacob goes to a mart and buys a clipper and some blades. He then drives to a rendezvous point, where his team offloads the ammo from a cargo truck into smaller trucks. By that time, Catcher informs his team about the loss of his CI, and while they brainstorm how to crack the case, Jacob switches on Shotgun's phone to draw attention. The cops trace it immediately and set out in pursuit.
Got it. Let's go. We got the coordinates. Let's roll out.
Jacob sends the coordinates through Shotgun's phone and instructs the other group to go ahead while he follows behind. Now, alone with Howie, he pulls a gun on him and demands to know how many guns are left. Howie reveals there are about 1,000 more hidden in one of the cargoes.
2,000 AKs.
Judging by Jacob's behavior, Howie realizes Shotgun is done.
Shotgun's dead, isn't he?
Answer the fucking question.
But Jacob spares his life and orders him to jump out of the vehicle and never show up on his radar again. As Jacob takes control of the vehicle, he tosses the phone and meets up with their connect. Calmly, he explains that Shotgun was a rat and would have gotten them busted.
What you don't know is you made a deal with a rat.
The connect agrees, and they hand over the money, unaware that they're surrounded. The cops storm the scene as the crew lowers their guard. Some resist and get shot, while Jacob is arrested. Back in prison, Catcher offers Jacob a deal, his freedom in exchange for the Beast's identity, but Jacob refuses.
You give me the Beast. And everyone involved. And you walk.
When he returns to his cell, he retrieves a weapon he had hidden between his legs and waits eagerly. Eventually, Roberts comes to escort him to a meeting with the Beast. Inside the cage, the Beast asks Jacob how Shotgun and his crew got killed, and learns it was all Jacob's doing. Enraged, he vows to eliminate Jacob's family, and yells for Roberts to take Jacob away. But Jacob breaks free using the tool he smuggled in, and he threatens Roberts, locking him in the same cage. Watching this unfold, the Beast realizes Jacob planned everything. He came back to prison for this, so he attacks Jacob, but Jacob slices his neck with the blade, unaliving him at once. As the Beast collapses, Jacob tells him, "No one touches my family."
Nobody's touching my family.
Then strikes a deal with Roberts. He becomes the next shot caller, and Roberts chickens up and agrees to report the incident as self-defense. Later, Catcher goes through files and finally learns that Jerry Manning was the Beast all along. He receives a text from an unknown sender, offering him a gift. When he arrives at the location, he finds another stash of ammunition. In prison, Jacob receives a letter from Joshua, who writes that he has agreed to honor his wishes and that they have moved on. More importantly, he says he has forgiven Jacob for everything.
I want you to know that I've forgiven you.
After reading the letter, Jacob looks at his family photograph and cries, revealing that despite the hardship, the bloodshed, and the years lost, he's still the same man who cares deeply for his family. The end. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.